We're going to do something a little different today. We're going to do the DOM IX Twinstar, but we're going to go in reverse. We're going to assemble it first and then pick it, mostly because, as you can see, there are a lot of moving parts here, and when gutting it, there's stuff on all four sides that it can be a pain in the butt to get it out without dropping anything and obscuring what's happening. So to be easier on me, or what I hope is easier on me, it's not really that much easier, but we're going to assemble it first, and then we're going to pick it afterwards. So, security features on the Twinstar. The most noticeable thing, it's a member of the IX series. As you can see, it has these beautiful shark pins, but it has a twin interactive element here. There are two little discs here that can move independently of each other, so I can move just one of these discs at a time, versus a lot of interactives will just be one element. This one is independent. When it is inserted into the lock, it actually pushes one to one extreme and then one to the other extreme. And how that happens is in the very back of this core, there are two little nubs. So you can see one of them there. That pushes the element down for this one. And then on the bottom here, there's another nub to push the other one up into the other element. So that's the twin elements, twin interactive elements. It's a key protection and key control measure. It basically makes casting attacks of where you cast someone's key pretty much impossible to do because of the moving element in the key. The core itself's not super crazy. It does have a wide opening on this one side where this piece of black plastic is used to cover up this. But other than that, you have a bunch of slots for key control pins as well as anti-drill ball bearings. There are 3 key control pin spots on the top of the core for key control, as well as the sidebar slot for that. So one of the key control pins can actually push the sidebar out of the way. I don't have that one. I have the one up here in the front, but some Twinstars will have an actual key control pin that interacts with the sidebar, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know if there's a lot of locks that do that. But by default, how this sidebar works is you have this little sidebar pin here. He sits in this pocket right there. And the sidebar sits in this channel, and by default he's going to be like that, and he's going to stick out because that pin won't be in enough, and this is going to catch on the sidebar groove in the core itself. But when the key is inserted and the interactive element correctly pushes on that, it'll actually push that pin over and cause the sidebar to basically retract like that into the core, and then the core can rotate. So it's kind of a unique little sidebar here. There is another IX that has a similar-ish sidebar, if I remember right, but that is a unique sidebar compared to most of the sidebars you see. We're going to go ahead and just drop those out because we're not ready to assemble that. That's kind of going to be our last part there, but each pin is teardrop shaped, so there is a correct orientation for each pin. I think all of the key pins are interchangeable except for the ones that go in the very back. These very back key pins, as you can see, have like this little ramp on them. And if that ramp is backwards, as in this pin was inserted backwards on the opposite side, that ramp would actually block the key from smoothly entering. So you actually should probably keep track of where each of these key pins goes side to side, just because they can be bidirectional, or I mean they can be unidirectional, but I think a majority of these pins are bidirectional. That's not the case of all IX series locks. Some of them are unidirectional on every pin. It does appear Twinstar has a lot of bidirectional pins except for those guys, so do keep that in mind. The other interactive element is actually down here. It goes in this pin stack here. And this one's actually oversettable because it acts just like a normal pin. So you do have to be careful about that when you're setting this guy who's going to be in the bottom left of the keyway when it's installed. He can be overset. So do pay attention when you are setting that pin. For pin security features, you do have these shark fin pins. They can be picked with either a flag or a hook, or in my case, I'm going to use both. Some of them will feature torpedoes on their ends, so that if you overlift them, you get counter rotation thinking you're on any of these spool edges that you see. The way to differentiate that, though, of course, is these are much thicker than any of the spool tips are. So it's pretty noticeable when you're going to be trying to overset a pin versus trying to get yourself out of a spool. The most difficult one, in my opinion, is this really high lift spool. The high lift pins on this guy, we're going to get to a point almost guaranteed where I'm in a very deep set, and all that's left is probably either this guy or this guy as a high lift pin. If I'm left with just this guy, I guarantee you I will drop pretty much every other pin in the lock just to get it set, and then we'll go through again to set it. Hopefully I can get it on the first try. The only way to find out is by actually doing it. For core features, you can see all the things in there. There is an anti-drill pin right here. This Bible is accessible. Not every Twinstar is like that. This guy is one of the 333HM for a half modular. They're used for the padlocks, for example. I don't know why it says modular, because this only fits in one spot, and that is the fully in spot. And then your actuator would sit here. We're just not going to have the actuator just because it's going to get in the way, so it's a lot easier to assemble it without it, and we have all the core retention and locking features without it. But yeah, the core itself does have a cut here where the sidebar is normally going to sit, that you can hopefully see. If I can get light in there, there you go. And then there are two detents on the left and right side as well. So just as you turn the key, you'll feel it kind of touch each of these sidebar channels, which if you're using it when it's installed is helpful. So let's get into the assembly process here. We'll just start with our key pins, get them entered in to our lock. That teardrop shape does mean that they can only go in one way, and it means that the pins won't be rotated by the key, and they won't be rotated by you when you're picking. So do keep in mind that the orientation of these guys matters, and they're only going to go in that one direction, which if they slide around in your tweezers like this one wants to, can be a pain in the butt. But it's even worse to try to feed them in to when you need to gut the lock. If you would have to feed it in normally with a follower, which I've had to do with some of the other IX series locks, it's a pain in the butt. This guy having a Bible cover is awesome for the assembly purpose. So go ahead and get each of these guys put into the lock. I tried to set them in a way that they would be close to their final position, but they are surprisingly, because of their lopsided cuts, they definitely are easy to rotate accidentally as you're handling them, and then you're not going to get them in the right spot anyways. But basically just feeding each of these in. You'll notice I do have two master wafers that we are going to keep. We need those in order for the key to operate. This lock came out of a mastered system. I was able to remove all the driver's side ones, obviously, but I was not able to remove any of the ones that keep the key functional. I was left with only two, thankfully, and they're on non-torpedo pins, so they don't really change the difficulty of the lock that much, in my opinion. Most of the difficulty comes from the driver pin side anyways. So, as you can see, when we insert this key, hopefully it goes in smoothly because I have the correct ones in the correct spot. And there we go. Make sure, I might have flipped two of these around. I did. 3 and 4 are flipped, so we're going to go ahead and get that fixed now. We might have to just do it this way. So, as I said, gutting can be a fiasco in this lock. And when I got this lock, I actually had these key pins in the wrong spot. I thought I double checked that before, but I clearly did not. So inserting this key again, making sure everything lines up. I know that 4 did have a master wafer, and it had a slight master wafer versus a very heavy one. So, oops. Go ahead and get these guys swapped. This is why it's good when assembling to always assemble using the key. Else I would have put that together and found out that, hey, my key does not actually operate the lock. Now it's in the correct spot. And you'll see we have this small master wafer for the 4th spot, and then we have a bigger master wafer to handle the 1 spot here. So now on to some of the less fun portions of this, I think, when it comes to assembly. We do have these ball bearings. One goes in the very back, and one goes in the very front. I don't think I've ever seen a key that has a slot cut for those spots. They're always cut for one of these 5 spots in here. These profile pins don't need to be picked, but they are a key control feature and could be used for mastering systems, things like that, where certain keys would not operate the lock because they did not have a cut for the given side pins. I'm going to try to hold a shim over that. Oop, and I lost a master wafer right away. Try to hold a shim over that just so that I don't drop any of those out. We're going to go ahead and do that with this top here too, just so that it's easier for me to keep pins from falling out, I think, while I'm assembling the lock. I might not need it so much for the top as long as I just keep my finger like that. So as we come to this side, we got, like I said, I don't have one that goes there. Mine goes in the very front. And then we have our interactive element. It goes right there with the sidebar. And since we have the key in, it pushes it out, and we could actually just grab it and it holds it in place there. I am actually going to probably use a shim on that as well, just to make it a lot easier to hold this in place. So I'm going to go like that. I might have actually, I dropped the interactive keypin out on the top here. Let's get that guy back in. He disappeared to here. So the final part we need to get this inserted in the lock is this black plastic piece. He goes on the side into this spot and clips in there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and insert the whole goodness into our plug. I'm trying to go slowly so they don't drop any of those ball bearings out. Those extra shims, this is a very tight tolerance lock, so those extra shims definitely are noticeably blocking things, so go ahead and get those out. Or at least try to. I might just remove the key, make it a little easier on myself. Here we go. So then shims can come right out. And now we have just the driver pins to insert here. We're not locked up or anything until we have some pins in there. So the interactive element again, the way I had this got it, we were like this. So we're going to set it like this to get these pins inserted. I did put little X's on the top of these guys so that we can verify when I've reassembled it that it's really easy to see that I've put all of them in the correct direction. The main difficulty is just getting them into their little teardrop shaped spots again. It might almost be easier to manipulate them with a pick, but we're making it work. Just to rotate them into their proper spot. Now that there's a couple in there too, this should be locked up. Get that guy in there. Make sure he ends up in the right spot. Get him rotated correctly. And then our interactive goes in there. Oops. Now, when I was gutting, I was actually getting these drivers out in an easy way. That was probably the most difficult. So that's why I decided to go in reverse and do assembly and pick instead. Assembly and picks are going to be less common, mostly because assembly is usually a slower process than gutting. And also, you can just sit there and pick until you get an open and then gut it immediately for a shorter video. Whereas here I have to really demonstrate my picking skills on the fly so that it's obvious that I any multiple attempts I have to do become quite obvious. Hopefully we don't have to do too many, and we'll get this picked pretty quick. There we go. So and then just showing in there, I had those little X's on top, so you can see all those guys were inserted in correctly. I'm going to do now, get each of these springs in. The stacks are balanced except for whatever reason the interactive stack is not balanced. So that's all the springs are going to be pretty much the same height sticking up here until we get to the interactive one, which for whatever reason is going to stick out like a sore thumb. Which, as you can see, it does. It sticks out at a pretty big height there. So our Bible cover is a little sheet of brass or copper or insert thin metal here. I'm going to push them on. Do kind of want to make sure that he gets in there nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead. It's not perfectly in there yet, but what we're going to do is get this on while we can, our little C-clip retention. And then I have actually a Circlip reforming pliers, which if you do a lot of lock picking, I recommend you get one of these. They are awesome. They let you bend these Circlips back into nice circular shapes very easily. I know everybody really hates like Asa style Circlips, but after getting one of these, I simply don't have any issues getting these bent back into a nice securing format. This guy, the core might just be a little bit thicker, so I'm gonna flip it over. Usually most Euro styles, I can get a nice tight crimp without it, but I have to flip this one. But you can see it really tightens that crimp up on the Circlip nicely. That way you don't have any mysterious explosions halfway through your picking process where the C-clip decides it becomes a member of normal life instead of being sitting on there really nicely. So got that in good. Let's just push these in. That one guy sticking out a little bit definitely makes it more difficult to get this cover on in a way that makes him happy. But the nice thing about the module is this also pushes down on that and holds it in place. And then there's a tiny little 1.3 millimeter, if you're a multi-pick flag user, it's the same wonderful sized M2 Allen or hex. And of course my wrench is a little magnetized, so it's being a pain in the butt. Turn it left, make sure we get it threaded right, don't want to cross thread, and then turn it right to get it assembled. And there we go, that is an assembled Twinstar. We'll do a function check with the key and get it in the vise here. Keep this in view. We're gonna get this into, get my setup into a more vise-friendly state. I'm gonna put it in a double Euro or a Euro style holder. And then get that stuff out of the way. Adjust the camera, try to keep this guy in frame as best I can. Get him tightened up in the vise. And then let's get this centered here. All right. I'm gonna fix the focus to the lock. Kind of get my lighting readjusted a little bit. Grab my key. Let's do a function check. Make sure we got everything right, and we did. And let's get to picking. I'm going to apply counterclockwise tension. I'm going to start with a multi-pick 4 or 5 flag, whichever one's this direction. Binding in the back. Twinstar gets more talkative as you pick it, I think. At least when you're using a pick. I like to use a flag right away because I feel like I can feel binding states almost immediately with the flag versus with a pick. It's a lot harder to tell. When I'm pushing on the shark fins, I can definitely feel whether something's binding or not pretty quick. That really high lift pin. I think we got it set. Definitely drop this guy though. Got a little bit of core movement there. Still got binders on this side though. My lock likes to isolate pretty well, I think, from side to side, so I'm not sure if that's true of every Twinstar. It probably is not. There's another core movement. Pin 2 is now blocking my flag. It's binding. Wants to counter rotate a little bit. Let's get on top of it. I'm basically wiggling my flag on top of the shark portion and then pushing it, and there we go. Got a good healthy amount of core movement there. 4 is binding. Got to make sure we get our flag on top of it though before we get pushing. That's the difficulty with the flag, I feel like, is it's actually very tight to get these flags on top of that shark fin. There we go. And it got a good click out of it. Another core rotation. We're in a pretty deep rotated core. Pin 1, 2, 3 is way deep, so I hope it's already set correctly. 4 and 5. So the whole side feels good. Now we're going to switch over to a pick, go for that sidebar interactive. Gotta find the little nub. Give it a push. There's a little bit of counter rotation. Gonna bounce on it a bit. I don't know, I think we just slipped off of it. I don't think it's set. There we go. Now it's set and I got a tiny little bit of core rotation. Now we're gonna flip and go for the other interactive that can be overset in the back here. Got one little click out of it. It still feels mushy, but we're just gonna continue on with our left side now. Find, there we go, the last pin there, pin 4, binding pretty heavily. There we go. I think we got it set. Pin 3 is now binding. Pin 3 is, I'm slipping off of it really easily. Let's change my flag angle a little bit. A little back counter rotation, just got to get it past that lip. There we go. 2 kind of gave me a little bit, not much though. It's very difficult to use the flag on this side, I feel like, just because I'm fighting. I don't have a good place to purchase it. There we go, this one's binding again. I'm going to come in here with a nice hook, ride the channel, push on them that way. 3 is definitely binding. There we go. That feels 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go check out that interactive that felt a little mushy before and see if it's got a nice firm binding now. I think it is. Oh, slipped off of it. It is a tiny little nub back there, so it's really easy to slip off. There we go. Got a little bit of movement there. Back in with the flag. Really hard binding pin here. There we go. Clicked once. It's still binding. A little bit of counter rotation when I push on it now. That's causing me to actually slip off of it. There we go. It's very difficult to get with the flag in that angle. I'm going to try to flip it and go at it from this angle. Basically riding the top of the shark fins, getting on top of the one I need to. It's very tightly bound. Trying to be a little lighter on the tension so I can get on there easily. But it takes very little tension to actually bind this guy. I think we're on to a different one. There we go. You can see we got into a pretty deep set there. See if we can find any more binders. Four feels fine. 3 feels fine. 2 feels fine, and 1 feels fine. They're all kind of springy, so let's go check our interactives quick. I'm pretty sure the sidebar one is already set because this core is rotated a good bit, but I'm just going to go give it a little tap anyways. Since I'm in the neighborhood, I think it's good. Let's go to that oversettable interactive, find it. Did get a nice push out of it, and now it fails. Now it feels spongy, so I think we're set on that. Come over and check our left side, just for fun, or our right side, I mean. Like I said, this usually isolates pretty well, so all those feel good actually. Back on over. So I'm going to switch to my nice deep hook here, go for this high lift. There's 1 click out of it. Counter rotation, I'm dropping some pins. I think I got it set, so now let's go back in there, redo those other guys. Check this side. That one's definitely binding. I think all of those are springy. Let's check our I think I'm just slipping off of it. I think it is set. Let's go to the other one. I think it actually feels good. Just kind of pulse tension there to try to get any oversets out. Don't think I had overset this guy. It still feels pretty good. Can't overset him, but part of me always wonders if I can, you know? Come back over here, see if I dropped any of these ones. And my favorite, the really high lift here, I think I did actually, so. There we go. Pin 2 may also be one that I had dropped. There we go. I may have actually dropped most of this side when I went and set that heavy one on the other side. Now those all feel good. First pin here might be a little, oh, I think we're good there. Check some of these interactives. Using the deep hook this time just to make sure I really can feel where it's at. Which I think that one's good. The top one's pretty impossible to get with the deep hook, so we'll go in with the milder hook. Very easy to slip off of it because it's just a tiny little nub. Kind of feels loose, so I think it's fine. Check that other one again just because. It's springy. Come in here. Oh, there's a binder. Slipped off of it. There we go. We got a really nice deep set now. Usually it means we're just hung up on one of the interactives or the really high lift. That interactive definitely was one of the contributing factors. It's set now. Let's go check this high lifts over here. Definitely binding. There's one click, but there's counter rotation there that I cannot get with my flag, so we're going to go in with a hook. And we're open. So there you have it. That is an assemble and pick of the DOM IX Twinstar. Hopefully that wasn't too long for you guys and you learned something along the way. See you all next time.